What is up, MFers? Hope you guys are having the best day of your entire damn life. Coming at you on a Monday, indoors, unfortunately, because if you live in my part of the country, in Nebraska way, apparently it snowed 4 inches yesterday and it's 26 degrees. I wasn't aware it went from summer to the Arctic tundra, so that's why we're indoors. We're drinking some crackinated Black Rifle Coffee Company coffee. Now this gave me an awesome opportunity to stay inside today and do a little bit of a tip video with a bait that I think everyone loves to throw this bait, or at least they have a bunch in their arsenal, but maybe it's not a bait that you know a whole lot of stuff about when, where, why, what, where it excels, etc. And that is, of course, this guy right here, the old Mr. Chattering bait. Of course, I'm referring to this, a bladed swim jig. It's a bait that's been around for about 15 years now. Of course, everyone's gone out and caught a bunch of fish on this, or at least a lot of people have. If you haven't, perfect. This is going to be a great video for some beginner type tips. And I'm also going to share a couple different tips that maybe you haven't heard of before, and potentially even show you guys a couple baits I make myself, which is all of these baits actually. Yeah, these guys get bit. So we're gonna talk trailers, we're gonna talk action, we're gonna talk where to throw it, when to throw it. My goal by the end of the video is to have you guys out there catching more fish on a chatterbait, so that's what we're gonna try to do. Let's do it! Okay, so the most important thing to me with a chatterbait when it has to do with action, effectiveness, and everything else, patent infringement, a little bit of everything when you're coming with bait design, is the connection to the head. If you follow the industry much, you'll know that Z-Man owns the patent to where you have the blade directly connected to the head right there with that little guy right there. That's why there's a bunch of bladed jigs in the market, but Z-Man's the only one that has a direct connection that looks just like that. Now you might say, that looks like a 6 cent swim jig head. How did 6 cents come out with the chattering bait? Well, I make these. 100% of these I make myself, because they end up being more badass than anything you could buy, in my personal opinion. If you want to know a little bit more about that, I'll drop a link to the video. I made a video last year about how to make these guys, so if you want to go make some of these yourself, and you enjoy catching more fish than other people that are using them right next to you, I mean, I suppose you would want to go do that, so go click that link. Anyways, I make these. I either use like a 6 cent swim jig head like this guy right here, or I use like this poison tail do-it mold head. They both work extremely well. I really like the 6 cent swim jig hook. You guys know how much I throw that one and everything. So let's talk about this design. So to me, it's very important to have that blade hooked directly to the head. But also, to me, in my opinion, I know they've caught millions of fish for everyone. You guys are saying, oh, I caught a 14-pounder on it. It's not a piece of garbage. Well, it's not a piece of garbage. But in my personal preference, I don't like the Z-Man chatterbait and how tight it just vibrates and shimmies. Just like when I'm fishing a crankbait, I want my bait to have some thump to it, and I want it to have some hunt to it, some responsiveness to it. And to me, when you fish a chatterbait, it's just a really tight vibrating bait, which is due to that being directly cooked to the head. If you guys probably know what I'm talking about. If you have some that you've seen with split rings on it, 1 split ring will give it a wider action, 2 split rings will give it a super wide action. Unfortunately, that also means it's going to hang in the grass a lot more, and it's going to take it longer for that blade to get thumping once you pop it out of something or on the retrieve. I feel like I found the happy medium making my own this way, so hopefully you guys get a little bit of that out of the video you're watching right now, hopefully. About how to make these guys. So I guess just what I'm getting at there, that's why I make my own. That's why I don't buy any from the store. That's why, I mean, I've had companies send me them, but I haven't found one that works as well, has that perfect combination of thump, hunt, weedlessness, profile, colors, etc. So I make my own, and these ones get freaking chewed. Let's talk about colors real quick. As you guys can see, I mean, I use 3 different colors of chatterbaits, and that is it. I use a green pumpkin one. I usually throw this one about probably 80% of the time, to be honest. If it's really muddy, I'll break out the black and blue. And if the fish are really related to shad balls around like different reed clumps or around grass clumps or points and timber, stuff like that, I will bust out the white. Also, smallmouth really like that brighter white color. You guys have seen that as well. So I don't get too crazy with it. My green pumpkin color generally has a little bit of blue shimmer in it too. I like that. I don't know if it actually matters. But yeah, don't kill yourself going out and buying a million different colors or making a million different colors like I hope you guys go out and do, because I always like to make my own stuff whenever possible. Get it exactly how you want it, and you just get more satisfaction catching fish personally on something that you make. All right, something else very important. Let's talk about trailers. As you guys can see, I only got 2 different types of trailers. Really, I only throw three different types of trailers on my chatterbaits. This one right here is my absolute favorite, and I'm not a big fan of the Strike King brand, but this one is an absolute winner. It's called the Blade Minnow. It's got no action on its own, but it's nice and slim. It's got some rib action going on there, so it gives it a lot of side-to-side movement, and I love the fork tail. Whenever I can find a bait with the fork tail, I think that potentially might be why the Hinkle has got so much extra draw, I guess. The fork tail baits, it's what fish are seeing in their face all day, every time they're chasing anything, and I think personally, in my head, I feel like that does something to the fish, and they do like that. So whenever I can get away with it, I do. I'll also throw a little swim bait trailer. I was using like this 3.5-inch Kitech style trailer before. 6th Sense is actually coming out with this prototype one I've been using lately, and this is like might potentially be my only swim jig and chatterbait trailer. I can't talk a whole lot about this one, but it's going to be coming out early next year, and this thing has some action. You're about to see me catch some fish on a trip I actually went out last week. When I get to that video in the editing process, caught some just fishing this swim bait right here. But a swim bait trailer is really good. Whenever you potentially got a little bit more color in the water, you want a little bit more kick. Again, to me, it's kind of like the same theory with like a scrounger head. If you have all the action in the head, you don't want a big boot tail. That's why I do prefer to throw this guy. But this little kicker tail swim jig trailer type guy, that works just as well a lot of times too. Now, one other one I don't have up here, that's down on the boat, of course, where the tackle shop is. But I like to throw a craw trailer once in a while as well, and when I throw that guy, it's because it's not necessarily so much because of what it looks like in the water. It's more so for the same reason I throw a craw trailer, a big wide flapping trailer on a swim jig, and that's to keep it up in the water column. If you're fishing over some really shallow grass, but it's still submergent, you want to fish something over the top of it, maybe they won't come up and eat a wake bait or something like that. It's really important to me to be able to keep it out of there, but still fish it at a little bit slower speed, because a lot of times that's the pre-spawn phase, that's late in the fall phase. Those fish aren't super aggressive, and so if you can fish it a little bit slower but still keep it up in the water column and fish it super shallow, you can get a lot of bites doing that as well. So, you know, rage craw, pack a craw, you can do whatever your favorite craw is. Match it up with this guy and yeah, catch fish that way. So something else I feel is very important for chatterbaits, I know it's been talked about a ton, is of course your rod reel line setup. As I bust the tip off of this one, let's see, no, I didn't break it. Hopefully not. This right here has become my my chatterbait swim jig rod. I was throwing tubes on it up north. I'll throw Texas rigs, I'll flip with it, I throw little swim baits on it. I do a lot of different stuff with this rod, but this is the 6th Sense Lux 7.5 heavy. It's a slower action rod, but it's still graphite. It has a nice, more parabolic bend to it, but it's got a lot of power as well. So, I mean, this has everything I'm looking for in a chatterbait rod. Some guys, I know Brett Hyatt, who's like the king of chatterbaiting. He's widely known as a really good chatterbait fisherman and designer now at this point. He throws his on a glass rod, and that's great for him. I obviously, he knows way more about it than I do, and he catches a lot more fish on it than I do. But the mental block for me, I don't do soft rods, stuff like that. I can't do monofilament. I don't like to do glass rods on anything. I love to be able to feel what my bait's doing down in the grass when I rip it up out of there. And so having the responsiveness and sensitivity of a graphite rod while still having the slower action is absolutely the deal for me. Now, I always throw it for that reason too. I never throw it on braid. I never throw it on monofilament. It's always fluorocarbon for me, which is nice because I can pick up this rod after I've flipped a dock, a bush, thrown a swim jig, whatever, which I also throw on fluorocarbon. So, you know, 15, 17 pound fluorocarbon is absolutely perfect to me. And yeah, get out there, throw it around 7-to-1 gear ratio reel so you can burn it fast if you need to, but you can obviously sew the handle down. That's my setup. That's what I throw it on. Now, obviously, something very important is location. You have to be throwing this bait around fish for the fish to actually be able to eat it. And the reason a chatterbait, to me, is most effective, and the place it's most effective is around grass. Its propensity to be fished around grass flats, through grass, ripping it through grass, just like it's like a lipless crankbait, except it's more weedless. And I know you can rip a trap out of a lot of stuff. You can rip this guy out of more stuff than that. So it's pretty much synonymous. It's a parallel bait system for me when I'm fishing around grass as the lipless crankbait is, except this guy can generally be fished a little bit shallower and through some different types of grass that you can't rip that lipless crankbait through. Obviously, you got a lot more thump and flash with this. you got a lot more rattle and tight shimmy in a lipless crankbait. But that's where I throw this guy 95% of the time, is around grass. You can pitch it around grass clumps if you bank fish. You can make long bomb casts with it on grass flats or in ditches or in drains, as they say in Texas. You can do a lot of different stuff with this guy around grass, but that doesn't mean you're limited to grass. I'm about to go up to South Dakota, do some smallmouth fishing, and I can about guarantee you, just fishing wind-blown banks, fishing standing timber stumps and stuff, they're gonna freaking chew this guy right here. I'm gonna have him on the front deck the entire time, even though the water's gonna be down in the cooler temperatures. That's when this guy's gonna get bit. Brings me to my next point. Let's talk about when to throw this bait. You know, this bait excels for me in cooler water temperatures, and that's not the only time I throw it, but I love throwing this bait when the water is 40 to probably 55, 60 degrees, right in that middle zone, when the fish want something that's shimmying tighter around grass, when they're staging in grass going in on the pre-spawn, or when they start relating to it when it gets cold. If there's a cold front or something, they'll eat this guy very, very well. Now, you can also catch fish on it all summer. I don't like to throw when the water's below like 40, 45 degrees generally, because it's not a supernatural bait. You can't fish it ultra slow, of course, unless you're just kind of, you know, moving it slowly on the bottom, in which case I would rather be throwing a jig or something like that, or a Texas rig, or a jerk bait for that matter, if I want it to sit in their face. But that's when I throw this bait. Another thing I always talk about with you guys is how effective the swim jig is, and how it's so much more effective. You probably get the sense that I only throw that, I don't throw a chatterbait. That's not true. A swim jig, to me, has become more effective than this bait for getting bites in pressured water, because they've seen a million of these guys now, and they've felt them. You know, feel is so much for these fish. They get so conditioned to seeing, hearing, feeling things. Even if that's just a bait splashing on the water, if that's a trolling motor engaging, they're used to it. They're smart, especially the bigger ones. But when the water has a little bit more color to it, and when it's a little bit colder, and you're maybe trying to cover some more water, you're trying to draw fish from a little bit further distance, this guy gets the nod for me. And when I say it's cleaner, that has a lot to do with your fishery, wherever you're fishing. For me, that means when the water has less than probably a foot visibility, I prefer this guy over a swim jig. Not to say a swim jig won't get bit in those conditions, especially if there's a lot of pressure, but that's when this guy gets the nod for me, and chatterbaits obviously catch a ton of freaking fish. A couple more quick things before we're out of here. Let's talk about some of the custom things you can do with these baits. You know, I like I said, I love making them myself. I make as much tackle as I possibly can. But yeah, try different blade sizes. You can get all different types of blade sizes, see what that does to the action. And a lot of guys have really gotten into the genre of the super heavy, deep running ones on ledges and stuff like that. We don't fish a lot of ledges around here because we have more not natural lakes. We have man-made lakes, so we don't have a ton of different creek channel ledges. But that's something to experiment with. You know, fish it out deeper, let it sink down, and slowly wind that guy back in. But yeah, always experiment, always try different types of things with these baits right here, because for whatever reason, it really triggers fish in a lot of the same ways that a spinnerbait used to, but in a little bit more natural, compact profile that comes through cover even better than a spinnerbait. As far as retrieves go, I know if probably you guys have gotten the gist of it, since I say I fish it around grass, I fish it around stumps, wind-blown areas and stuff like that. Most important thing to me, just like a lipless crankbait, you want to get this guy bogged up in the grass, or at least have it make contact with the grass. Basically, you're fishing it like any other crankbait. Deflect, hit the angles, fish it down the strike zone as far as physically possible. Don't make straight casts to the bank, or if you're on the bank, don't make straight casts out to the lake and just retrieve it straight in and think you're going to catch them. This guy needs to be on a weed edge, needs to be on a weed clump over the top of grass, needs to be banging into rocks, stumps, everything, and that's flat out how you're going to get bit, is deflection with this guy. Well, that's all I got for you guys today, and hopefully some of these tips I shared with you guys on how to fish these dudes right here will help you go out and catch a whole bunch of really big bass. Please comment down below. Let me know what you thought of what your favorite chatterbait to throw is, if you make your own chatterbaits. And of course, if there's any other questions you guys have about fishing these and my experiences with fishing them. I fish every single day. Doesn't mean I know more about anyone. Doesn't mean, like I always tell you guys, that there's any set rules of fishing. But that's when I have found this bait right here to be the most successful bait for me. Anyways, thanks so much for watching this video. I'll catch you back tomorrow with another one, and the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after that. As you can see, we're very close to 195,000, maybe there by the time you guys are watching this video. I'd love if you went and subscribed and added to that number right there. And yeah, I look forward to talking to you guys very soon. I'm out of here. Peace.
I'm not sorry. I can't help this love like mine. I'm not sorry. I can't stop with a love like mine.